Okay. I know you are going to show what safe, respectful, active learners you are today listening on this very special day for Mr. Powell. And I'm going to hand over now to our beautiful student executive who are running the assembly.
I would like to pay my respects to the Awabakal people who are the traditional custodians of this land on which we hold today's assembly. Aboriginal people from this local area have always felt a strong connection to their land. Our beautiful lake and nearby oceans have provided them with home, shelter and food. The Awabakal people knew how to look after this land and have been its traditional custodians for over 65,000 years.
As I welcome everyone here today, I ask that you think about how you too can care for our local area so that we have amazing natural wonders to share with future generations of people who inhabit this wonderful country we call home. Today I would also like to pay my respects to elders both past and present and extend a warm welcome all emerging leaders who are present at today's assembly.
Please say the school pledge with me after 2. 1, 2.
On behalf of Miss Hall, our teachers, students and the school community, I would like to welcome everyone here today to this special assembly for an incredible teacher who has made such an amazing impact on this Warners Bay community for the past 44 years. This teacher who we all know and respect is Mr. Gregory Powell. I would also like to welcome Mr. Gregory Powell's wife Brenda and his other family members here today. We would sincerely like to thank you for sharing him with us for all those years and hope that you know how much he is valued to by the Warners Bay Public School community.
Now, I want to take you on a journey. I want to cast your mind back to the year of 1978. If you were alive then, or if you can remember that time. Men wore flared pants and there were lots of cheesecloth tops, and Levi jeans, tie-dye clothing were all the go. Many young men wore their hair long and loved to sport a beard or a mustache, something Mr. Powell is very famous for. Malcolm Fraser was Australia's Prime Minister. Apollo won the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. That year, the Commonwealth Games were held in Edmonton, Canada. Lots of Aussies' homes were just getting their very first colour TV. Aussies were flocking to the movies to see Olivia and John in Greece. And Mr. Gregory Powell commenced his 44 years of teaching at Warners Bay Public School.
Warners Bay Public School, however, was not Mr. Powell's first teaching appointment. He was first posted to Carteret Public School on term 1 of 1971. However, Mr. Powell was then told he would have to partake in 2 years of national service, which all men had to do back then. So after his 2 years of national service was completed, he was finally appointed to teach with the Blue Mountains, where he worked at both Lure and Falconbridge Public Schools. In 1978, Mr. Powell was so happy to be posted back to beautiful Lake Macquarie, where he'd grown up, and his post was to Warners Bay Public School, where he would remain in a permanent position as a classroom teacher till the end of 2010. However, that was not enough time at Warners Bay Public School for Mr. Powell, because he immediately came straight back and has been one of our most loved and sought after casual teachers, right up till a few short months ago when he finally decided to retire for good.
Mr. Powell is very well known for starting up so many activities that became institutions at Warners Bay Public School. He has the impetus behind organising the first ever Year 6 farewell, Year 6 camps, establishing a Year 6 school parliament. He started the first school socials, or what we now call discos, and what about his family barbecues, where students brought along all of their cooking implements and food, so that Mr. Powell could teach them how to cook around a campfire. Yes, boys and girls, that area at the end of the office block that we all refer to as the barbecue area got its name from all of the outdoor barbecues Mr. Powell did with just about every group of kids that passed through Warners Bay Public School. It was a rite of passage to take part in a Mr. Powell barbecue.
Mr. Powell is more than just an incredible teacher. He is also a husband, father and grandfather. And outside of school and teaching, he has devoted more than 50 years of his life to walking the same paths as Australia's bushrangers, visiting the places they committed crimes and finding old haunts in the scrub where the nation's earliest law evaders hid out. He has written and published 13 books, and the Australian bush and bush history has been an integral part of Mr. Powell's gift to his students, and he took them on a wondrous journeys with his storytelling and bushwalking adventures. He loves history so much that you may have noticed a collection of purple poles and plates scattered around the school. They form part of the Mr. Powell History Walk and are enjoyed by students and visitors all the time.
Mr. Powell's passion for history also links closely with his admiration for the Warners Bay community and the students who have attended our school. Long after the students leave our school gates and move on to high school, Mr. Powell is still watching, reading and collecting stories about them. He has become the keeper of our Warners Bay records scattered around at the afternoon tea today. Invited guests will find many books and photo albums crammed with photos and newspaper reports. Some photos are of excursions and events that Warners Bay have been involved in throughout the years, but many are also filled with reports of former students who have gone to achieve great things.
There is never a single family name mentioned that Mr. Powell does not recall. He can immediately tell you all about that family, when the children attended Warners Bay Public School, and what their family links are within the wider community. He meticulously scours the local newspaper for any skerrick of information on former families and students, and then snips the article out and adds them to one of his special history albums. So for those of you that worry that Mr. Powell may not remember you or your family, let us assure you that he certainly does. You are all very much part of the fabric of his life, as Mr. Powell is equally a major part of ours. Have a look in the albums scattered around the library this afternoon, and you can walk through our history. Compliments of Mr. Powell.
I would now like to call on our principal, Miss Hall, to say a few words on behalf of the Warners Bay staff, students and families.
Welcome to everyone here today. A very big welcome to Greg and his family. It's great to see so many people here to celebrate the wonderful career of Mr. Powell. When I first arrived at Warners Bay, I was told that Mr. Powell wasn't just a teacher in our school, he was an institution. And it didn't take me long to see why. Greg is a really well-loved member of our community, and the kids always cheered when they were told he was taking their class for the day. There are many legends about Mr. Powell over the years and the exciting lessons he provided. I've been told that campfires were his specialty back in the day. In fact, the Gregory Powell barbecue area is named after him for those wonderful experiences. This year's Education Week theme is Creating Futures, and I think Mr. Powell's career embodies that theme. He has created futures not only for this generation of students, but also their parents and also their grandparents.
He's also one of the first teachers mentioned by ex-students and parents when they're reminiscing about our school, and I'm sure he'll continue to be a favourite long after he's retired. It's not often that we get to recognise and celebrate somebody for 50 years in education. Doesn't happen very much. But I'm honoured to be a part of today to commemorate Greg's outstanding contribution to so many students' lives and learning. Today we express our thanks to Greg for his vast contribution, not only to the education of the students in his care, but for every aspect of school life where he was generous with his time and skills. Today we farewell a teacher, a colleague, a friend, and an inspiration. Greg, thank you for everything you've done to inspire, engage and motivate students over the past 50 years. Your passion for education is what makes you an outstanding teacher, and we will miss you greatly. All the best and thank you.
I would now like to call on a representative from our P&C, Nicole Briscoe, to present Mr. Powell with a gift on behalf of the P&C.
Hello everyone, Holly and I are here today. We're parents at the school and we're members of the P&C. We're here to represent the parent community and to present Mr. Powell a keepsake on behalf of that community. I know Mr. Powell through one of my 4 daughters, Charlie, who's one of the Year 6 speakers today. It's been really interesting to learn and hear more about your career and the positive influence you've had on students over the years. There are many great teachers here at Warners Bay, but I have to say I would always hear of days when Mr. Powell would be teaching Charlie's class. As she describes it, there would always be a resounding cheer when they learnt he would be on the class for the day. I must admit it did sound fun, lots of learning games and lots of laughter. Mr. Powell, we've grown to understand your love of history and culture and the world around you, and we wanted to present you with a keepsake to represent something special in Australian culture and history. It is our pleasure to invite you up to receive these in appreciation of the teachings and influence you have had on the students of Warners Bay Public School and the commitment and contributions to the school and community, and how appreciated you are by the fellow students and parents as well. Duncan, our P&C president, touched base with a local artist called Alex Neen, a Kamilaroi man, I hope I've said that right. Alex is also an Aboriginal liaison officer at Jesmond Public School, and he was thrilled to present us with these gifts for you. He's also passionate about life and culture and influencing children in learning and ways to discover their path in life. So we present you with these 3 handmade artefacts. One is the Coolamon, which you're holding. These are all made from mulga trees. I guess may it be symbolic of the children you taught being carried into their future. It's traditionally used by males in smoking ceremonies and by females carrying their babies and collecting food. He understands that one day it may turn into a fruit bowl. He's okay with that as long as it's used and it's loved. The Nulla Nulla is a traditional weapon. May it represent you nurturing and protecting our children in your care. And the Clap Clap sticks, well, they're traditional musical instruments. May they represent your passion and the rhythm of life. And lastly, just thank you. Retired, but teachings are lasting impressions and they are rarely forgotten. So thank you, Mr. Powell.
As a part of every child's leadership journey at Warners Bay Public School, we all receive the chance to be an active member of the Year 6 School Parliament. Remember, that's yet another thing Mr. Powell introduced and nurtured in our school.
In the past few years, we have also added the opportunity for K-5 students to experience leadership opportunities through the implementation of Student Representative Council, which has a class member from every class from Kinder to Year 5.
The SRC decided that they would like to ask each class to design a special gift for Mr. Powell. Each current class's SRC member will now be called on to present Mr. Powell with their unique gift. Boys and girls, please listen for your class's name and come forward if you're the SRC member. We hope Mr. Powell has a great time sitting on his back deck with a cup of tea, maybe in one of his famous cartoon character mugs, while he reads through and appreciates each class's special gift to him.
We will now call on each class SRC member to come forward.
1M have made a class book about Mr. Powell's bag of famous collectible cartoon mugs.
1W have a booklet of letters written to Mr. Powell.
Tubi have designed a class artwork of a bushranger.
Two H have made a class book of illustrations and favourite stories about Mr. Powell.
I know that writing.
2-3M have made an artwork about Mr. Powell's collectible cartoon mugs.
Messages.
3-4A have a framed portrait and inspirational quotes about Mr. Powell.
Thank you.
3-4H have created a poem about Mr. Powell.
Thank you very much. 3-4H.
3-4B have thank you letters to Mr. Powell.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Shoggy.
Lots of reading, Mr. Powell.
I got
And that's it.
3-4Z have an artwork book of things Mr. Powell likes, as well as individual letters to him.
very much.
4-5B have created a book called Lesser Known Bushrangers of Australia. This one wasn't written by you, Mr. Powell.
Well, collection of the lesser known bushrangers. I'm on every page.
5-6I have made a thank you board.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you very much. 5-6I.
5-6L have made a combination stir-fry book.
L.
5-6P have created a bushranger themed snakes and ladders game for Mr. Powell to play with his grandchildren on the back deck.
We found that Mr. Powell.
Seen that in the cupboard somewhere. Thank you.
We've got to go in your bar.
Our support classes of Titco, Walling and Biraban have created a decorated music mug for Mr. Powell.
person. What is in there? Oh, wow. And there's me.
And last but not least, our three beautiful kindergarten classes, KM, KP and KJ, have created a video presentation for Mr. Powell. We're going to share it now. Get your tissues ready.
We would like to say thank you to Mr. Powell. From all the students at Warners Bay Public School. We are only in kindergarten this year, but we have heard lots of stories about you. You taught my dad at the school. And you taught lots of our brothers and sisters. They love going on excursions and hearing about the history of our school.
There was no school up on the hill where our school is now. It was all bush. Only Mr. Jonathan Warner's house was up there. No school. But Mr. Peter Johnson and his wife Catherine, who lived across there behind that house with the blue roof, lived in Jones Avenue. And he said, hey, I've got some children who need to go to school. I've also got a rumpus room in my house that I don't use. How about we have school in my house? This little plaque was put here to remember Mr. and Mrs. Peter and Catherine Johnston. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Peter and Catherine Johnson, for being such good people in the early days of Warners Bay. That's what that says. Thank you for planting these trees here, and thank you for letting kids come to your house to have school. Soon after, about 12 years later, the government said it's about time we had a school in Warners Bay, let's build one, and that's what they built up on the hill. It was an old-fashioned school. You've probably seen pictures of the old school, the old-fashioned kids in front of it. I've shown you pictures. There's a photo of it out in front of Mrs. Patrick's room on a little purple post, because we think our first school is right there in front of Miss Patrick's room.
Thank you for teaching us about the lake and the bush and the trees in our parks.
But even in the modern days, in our new days we live in now, in the time we live in, we've got lovely bush. Well, people come along and help the bush. Land care people don't get paid. They go in the bush and they plant plants. They go in the bush and pull out yucky weeds that would kill the bush. They go in the bush and clean up the rubbish. And they volunteer to do that without getting any pay. And they're doing that when we're at school. People are out cleaning the bush. People are out cleaning up the lake. People are out doing all sorts of wonderful things for us, and we don't even know they're doing it. It's named after that great big tall tree there. It's a bunya tree. A bunya pine tree. Up in the top of the bunya pine, right up the top, they grow these big bunya nuts. Inside the bunya nut, it's all these little nuts. The Aboriginal people use them as bush tucker. They could crush them up and make flour and make bread.
You told us about the community garden and how people help each other in Warners Bay.
But other people grow vegetables and fruits in the park. And just up the hill there's a community garden. And Warners Bay people, and maybe you know some of them, they have a garden. It's not their yard, it's a park, and anybody can go there and grow things. Anybody can go there and get some vegetables. We won't today though, because there's too many of us. But it's a community garden. It's one of those things that people do for no money or no reward. They do it because they like to help everybody in Warners Bay.
We will remember your stories, even when we're old and grey. Thank you, Mr. Powell!
We also wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we have a Google Doc online. It's linked through our school Facebook site. On it, you can write a special message to Mr. Powell from your family. So many people have already done so, and we would like to take a moment to share a couple of lovely messages from ex-students and friends of Mr. Powell.
Georgia Pearson, who attended from 2014 to 2016, said, "All the best, Mr. Powell. Thank you for sharing your cup collection with the class, and you seriously can't forget Tick-Off, the best game in history. I remember one time as we were playing and I was hiding behind a tree. As you walked around, I slowly walked around the other way, but sadly, you got me. I hope your time at Warners Bay Public School was full of some amazing memories too."
Phoebe Vandermars, who attended from 2009 to 2012, said, "Mr. Powell showed us all of his Disney cups. My favourite one was Nemo. I remember in year 4 we had a fire and roasted marshmallows. He taught us about the First Fleet and we made our own boats. He was always so much fun, energetic and entertaining. He made year 4 so much fun."
Lewis O'Hara, who finished here in 2002, said, "Mr. Powell is my Year 6 teacher at Warners Bay Public School. He taught me so much during my school year with him and about morals that I still uphold today. Mr. Powell gave me the confidence to be myself during an awkward stage in my life and the resilience I needed to take on high school. Later, I also had the privilege of Mr. Powell teaching my son, Marshall, and he also continues to be one of his favourite teachers. From myself and my son, thank you, Mr. Powell. You have made such a difference to us both, and we wish you all the best for the future."
Val Wallace, who was our school assistant from 1972 to 1996. He said, "Sincere thanks to you, Greg, for your research and organising of our school centenary celebrations in 1988 and 1992. You are unforgettable to the whole Warners Bay community, I am certain."
Mark Dean, who attended from 2008 to 2012, said, "I was lucky enough to have Mr. Powell in both Year 3 and 6. He was my favourite teacher across all of my years of schooling. Mr. Powell inspired me to pursue my career I am currently in, with his passion for nature and the Gold League, raising tadpoles in the pond at school and helping me to become passionate about the environment and eventually to become an ecologist. I wouldn't be who I am without you today, Mr. Powell. Thank you for helping me."
Carly White and Ben Gordon, Carly was in Year 6 in 1991, said, "Thank you for being such a tremendous teacher who I remember fondly and hold in the highest regard both from your time as a teacher and for what you have done for the community. You have taught me so many of my family members over the years, including my husband Ben. We met when I was 20 and we quickly realised that we both had you as our Year 6 teacher at Warners Bay but at different times. Highlights for us include the Mile Shores camps, the Gold Rush reenactments across the road and the many bushwalks. Ben also remembers building a garden with you behind one of the buildings in the late 80s and once showed me to the plaque on the wall with both your names on it. You know you've made an impact when 30-something years later you're still remembered as one of the greatest teachers ever. You showed us different ways of learning how to embrace the great outdoors and got us ready for high school. Thank you always, Ben and Carly."
I'd like to ask Miss Radcliffe from our school office to come forward. Miss Radcliffe has worked very hard posting messages on our school Facebook site and overseeing the compilation of this special book of messages for Mr. Powell. As you can imagine, the booklet is filled to the brim with similar comments and recollections to those we just read out. We hope you enjoy reading them, Mr. Powell.
I would now like to call on our former principal, Mr. Peter Byrne, who worked with Mr. Powell for many years, to say a few words about him.
I thought I got away from the microphone. Yes, thank you for the invitation, and congratulations to the school executive for such a marvellous presentation today, and thank you to those people who met me at the gate and showed me how to do the COVID safe walk and all that sort of stuff. But look, I really have heard so many stories today, and it brings back all these memories about all the things that Mr. Powell did and Mr. Powell was, and all of them are true, because I came to this school actually in 1976 it was, so I had a little bit before Mr. Powell. I left about 5 years afterwards, and I think one of the things that I know about teaching is that when you're with a person, you don't necessarily remember really good maths lessons or good history lessons or good anything lessons. You learn a bit from them, but you don't remember them that well, but you do always remember the people that you're with. And Mr. Powell, certainly you'll remember him for a long, long time, because he has done an amazing job, and he's done it for 50 years. So much so that I remember when I came here, and there was Mr. Powell, I can't remember if he was a bush ranger up on that top field doing a reenactment, or were you a soldier, Mr. Powell? Whatever he was needed to be, he was. And I do remember he taking kids camping and barbecues out the back and all that sort of stuff. So much so that he taught me how to take kids camping, because I went from this school to the Junction School, and I took kids camping to Glenrock Lagoon, which is where Mr. Powell took kids camping. So, you know, it's an amazing impact on so many people's lives, not just students, but lots and lots of teachers. So congratulations, Greg, on your retirement, and congratulations on an absolutely amazing career, an amazing life. Well done. Thank you.
Quiet, please. At the conclusion of this assembly, I would like to invite our special guests, staff and Year 6 to join us in the library for some light refreshment and a catch up with some old friends. Students from Kinder to Year 5, Mr. Powell will also try and pop out in the playground and say hi.
I would now like to invite Mr. Powell to come forward to say a few words.
Thank you, Sonny Jim. I can appreciate teachers, the effort that's gone into today. I can very well appreciate it, so thank you all very, very much. I know what goes into those little presentations, I know what goes into organisation. I think I sprung the student council when they're having a meeting in the hall. I only came here once this year, apart from the mini-fete, and I walked into the hall and the student council was meeting, and all of a sudden they went quiet. And I thought, aha, something's cooking here, so I didn't stay there too long. But thank you all very, very much. And yes, it's all true, everything they've said today, and a lot of things there I had forgotten. I had forgotten lots and lots of those things. I'd forgotten about the Gould League. I had not forgotten about Tick-Off, the world's famous favourite game, Tick-Off. What a wonderful time that was, and it's come up a couple of times today. But yeah, 50 years, not many teachers get to go 50 years in the one job because they retire before that. But I retired back in 2010, but I kept coming back. But I think today's big celebration here really means I've got to go this time. I don't think I can come back again. I think finally I'm getting kicked out of Warners Bay. So 2010 I retired because I turned 60, and then I stayed here for 11 years. And that says something about Warners Bay Public School, doesn't it? I stayed after I was retired for another 11 years as a casual teacher. And that took me up to 50 years in the teaching service. 50 years. But I look at that and I think, it's not really 50 years. It's not really 44 years at this one school. It's 44 different years. 44 different years. Because I look at this school now, this is not the same school as it was last year when I was here. These people down the front are wondering what is going on. Who is this old grandpa out the front? We don't know him, we've never seen him. These people down the back here and probably up the back there, I can't believe they used to be sitting down the front here. I can't believe they're up there. But every year changes, doesn't it? Last year there were buildings up there in the back of our playground. There used to be buildings and now they've gone. They've disappeared. So schools change all the time. The kids sit here, then they're back there, and they're up there, and now they're counsellors out the front. So really, I've had 1 year 44 times. 1 year 44, because every year is different. Every year is different. And when you get to my... by the way, I came here when I was 27. 27. Here's your maths lesson for today. Reverse those digits, 2 and 7. How old am I now? 72. I'll be 72 next week. And that's your maths lesson. Tell your teachers don't have to do any more maths today. That's it. That is it for the day. Yay! As if you were going to do maths on a Friday afternoon anyway. That wasn't going to happen, was it? So I came here as a very young teacher, and what people ask me now, people say to me, because I'm older, people say, how have the kids changed? Have those pupils changed? Have children changed over those 50 years? And I think that's an unfair question, because I've only been at one school really for 44 years here at Warners Bay, and I can't say, oh, the kids are terrible. I can't say, oh, the kids are so wonderful. Oh, the kids are so ordinary. I can't say that, because that only reflects on one school. One school here. But what does reflect on you people is that I kept coming back here for 44 years. What I can say, when people say to me, have the children changed? Are children different now? Are the children I teach here the same as those older children I can see up the back who are now really grown up? There's a lot of grown-ups up the back who I've taught. And I can say, the only thing I can say with honesty is, how have I changed? I can't say, have kids got better? Have kids got worse? I can say, how have I changed? When I started teaching, I was like a big brother. There wasn't much age difference between a year 12 boy or girl and a teacher at 20 or 21 years old. Now, as I went through my career of 50 years, I got older and older. But the kids stayed young. Kindies are still at young age. And I'm not like a big brother to the children anymore. I'm more like a grandpa. And I act a little bit more like a grandpa when I'm dealing with the children. And what I've always tried to do is find out what people are interested in. What are the children interested in? And I'm pretty sure, as Mr. Burns said, they like the outdoors. They like getting outside the classroom. And we held those pageants. We did the Ned Kelly Pageant there in that back playground, just up the back. And if you know your Ned Kelly history, you know that Ned Kelly, in the Ned Kelly story, they burnt down a hotel. Well, we did that. We built a hotel in the back playground there, and we burnt it down. Poor Miss Hall's having kittens there at the moment. We built the Eureka Hotel just over there, and we burnt it down. We dug a hole through this playground, right where you're sitting. We dug a huge trench through this playground, and we put the hose in it, and it became a river. And that was our Gold Rush River, right through the middle of our Cola area. And the kids loved the barbecue area, and they loved doing all those outdoor type things. So I learnt that they like those things. And I learned not just everybody likes those things. I tried to find out what every single person enjoyed doing. And in that way, I could feel one-to-one with the children. I had one little boy here at this school, and he had a lot of problems, and I couldn't work out how to solve his problems. I could not work it out until one day I found out where he came from. And in my bushranging research, I travel all over the countryside, and I know where all these little tiny towns are, and I know, he told me where he came from. I've been there, I told him. And then when he knew, I knew where he came from. He was my best friend. And another little girl I had, I didn't know how to get to her and solve her problems. But I learned that she loved writing little notes. She loved writing little greeting notes to everybody in the class. And by letting her do those sorts of things, I managed to get to her a little bit better and to understand her better. It didn't work with everybody. There are pupils that just didn't click with. I couldn't work them out, and I couldn't solve their problems. And I'm sure there were pupils there who had problems with Mr. Powell too. That's just life. That's just life, isn't it? So I tried to do new things at the school. When I came, we didn't have a camping program. Mr. Byrne just spoke. We got Mr. Byrne up on top of Mount Kosciuszko. Mr. Byrne and Year 6 way back then, they took Mr. Byrne took them to the top of Mount Kosciuszko, a place he's never been before. And that was a good job for the principal and Year 6 at Warners Bay School. So to finish off, a year ago, I had my last class here at Warners Bay. They were lovely 2B, last year's 2B, 2021 2B. They were the last class ever in my 50 years. And then COVID came, and that was lockdown. I taught on the 4th of August, and lockdown happened on the 5th of August. And I lost my job. Nobody wants a casual teacher. And I thought, well, that's time for me to finish teaching. I didn't know when I was going to finish. So that really made up my mind that this is when I'm going to stop teaching. And that was a year ago, on the 4th of August last year. So, by the way, could you point to any owls? Pink one. Where's pink owl? Green owl. Purple owl. Blue owl. There we are. You haven't forgotten. You haven't forgotten, have you? I need to tell you this last thing. The office here at Warners Bay, often ring me up to ask me questions because I can answer them because I'm old. And so I sometimes come back. I came back from Many Fate. I enjoyed that. And I will be back as a grandpa because you saw those lovely little girls over here before. This is my lovely little granddaughter, Imogen. Where's our other Imogen? Where's big Imogen? Where are you? Hands up. There she is. Imogen. See Imogen? There she is. Give us a wave. She met Imogen at Many Fate. Those two little girls, the little baby and the little one dancing on the mat, they'll be here at school in kindy. That was Winter Powell and Ruby Powell, and in a couple of years' time they'll be here. So thank you, teachers. Thank you for the effort that you've put in today. Thank you, Year 6 Parliament. Thank you, K5 School Council. I have appreciated it. It's been wonderful. There's a little bit more to go. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those oldies up the back. And thank you, School Council.
As the 2022 school captains, Alicia and I would like to wish you a happy, healthy, very long retirement, Mr. Powell. We hope that after today you'll understand just a little bit more about how much you meant to the generations of students, staff and families at Warners Bay Public School, and we hope that you find time to occasionally say hi because we already miss you.
girls, please stand for the school song, which will be followed by the Australian National Anthem. Please stand with your hands inside your body and eyes to the front.
Oh, you're so patient. Well done, guys. Mrs. Jacoby, would you like to come and lead us? You haven't done that for a very long time. It's like all our trade. Mrs. Jacoby, come on now. Mrs. Jacoby, boys and girls, if you don't know Mrs. Jacoby was at our school for a very long time, and she retired like Mr. Powell just a couple of years ago. And she always used to come and lead us, because she's a singer, if our silly iPod didn't work. So do you think you can remember the national anthem without the music? Yeah. I'm sure you can. And Mrs. Jacoby will lead us in singing. Okay?
I will start. I got COVID in January, and since then I've had no voice. It just drops in and out. Yeah, so.
Okay, but I'm sure you'll lead because you're a great conductor, son. Okay, ready?
Okay, we're going to start with
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with gold and soil and wealth for joy. Our home is good by sea, our land of lands in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare, in history's page with every stage, our lands Australia fair, in joyful strains and let us sing, our lands Australia fair, beneath our radiant southern cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands, to make this commonwealth of us renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the sea, we've found this place to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Oh, Mrs. Jacoby, you are beautiful.
What a super job with the sore throat. I love teachers, they just do anything we ask them to do, don't they?
Please sit quiet. This concludes our assembly. Boys and girls, we thank you for your respectful behaviour and active listening skills. Please look to your teachers for further instructions. Invited guests and teachers, please join us in the library for a cup of tea and a chat with Mr. Powell.